Paycore, we're located in Nevada, USA. The project really consists of two components. It's the upper FAD main zone and the lower FAD main zone. The upper is an oxide target. We believe there's a lot of historic production that we'll be able to potentially discover a near surface oxide target there. And then the unmined high-grade polymetallic deposit that sits at around 2,400 feet. It had a bit of test mining done for about 2-year period between 1956 and 1958. And during that time that Hecla had done the mining, they actually put together an ore reserve calculation of 3.5 million tons, 5 grams gold, 200 grams silver, and almost 12% lead zinc. If I were to put that on a gold equivalent basis, it's about 1.3 million ounces of 13.6 grams gold equivalent. We're tied on to i-80's project next door. We were there about a year drilling and had some success, and i-80 was a shareholder at the time, and they had then came and bought the project next to us after we were drilling for about a year and had some exploration success. They've recently announced that a scoping study planning to convert their mill leach operations into a base metal operation, which will produce a lead, silver, zinc con, and that's huge for us because that could be beneficial in any type of scenario going forward where we're in a processing decision. This is our team. I'm a geologist by background. I've been in the markets for 15 years in various roles. Ewan Downey is with i-80. Steve Filipovic was previously with Premier Gold. He's our CFO. John Begeman, known from Gold Corp days, and he was also with Premier and is also on i-80's board. And Jim Gowans. Jim Gowans was a really key member to get to our team, and that was mainly because he was the former president and CEO of Arizona Mining, which sold to South 32 for 1.65 billion US, and it too was a CRD deposit similar to this. The Taylor deposit averaged out to be around a 10% lead zinc, whereas this is getting close to around the 13-14%. This is our capital structure as it stands today. We actually just did a bought deal. It was an overnight deal. We had 8 million, and then by the morning we had over 22 million of interest, and so we ended up through a short form prospectus and raised about 16 million. So that should close on February 9th, and so we're fully financed to be able to do the exploration work. That's the FAD deposit, the FAD shaft as it stands today. So as I said, we're located in Eureka, and we're immediately south of the past producing Archimedes pit. It was operated by Barrick, and we're about 5 minutes from the town of Eureka. What's important to note is that we also have patent and claims on all of the structures and the FAD shafts, so it's a shorter time to permitting. In terms of scalability, past production here, there's about 80% of that first bullet point, and the scalability was all from the original Ruby Hill mine. Test mining was done between 1956 and 1958, and that's when they actually had put together this underground resource, because they did underground drilling. This was Hecla Mining, and they had deemed the ore reserve at the time, and it's wide open for drilling and down dip extension of this. Just to orient you on where we are on the Eureka Gold Belt, it's near that, you can see the project right on there. Why this has had no drilling in 50, 60 years is because the near surface production that was done in late 1800s into the early 1900s, and then in 1940 they sank the shaft, did the test mining from 1956 to 1958, and then they hit a fault and flooded the mine, and it was because of the water that they were unable to they just didn't have the technology to deal with the water. So they later tried to create upper watersheds, but were unsuccessful. And then Homestake had owned it, and Barrick had acquired Homestake. So you have two very gold-focused companies. And then Barrick had monetized all their non-core assets in 2015 and sold it to Waterton. So you had a period of about 50 years where there had been no base metal company or base metal technical team to advance this project. So we are the first company to drill this project in 50, 60 years. This is this cross-section of what the deposit looked like, just to give you perspective. The purple is the host rock. The red is where the FAD, so it sits at around 2,400 feet. You can see the FAD shaft that goes right into the main zone here. And then this is the near surface target. This right here is the Ruby Hill Fault and has displaced the deposit at down dip at around 2,400 feet. This is a cross section, so I've just zoomed in on this red area. And so what's important to note here is this red circle is the entirety of the historic resource that was put together by Hecla, which you see on the right here. None of the drilling that was done outside of here was included, and that's important to note because you can see whole RD2HA that had 142 feet of 20 grams gold, 476 grams silver, and over 20% combined lead zinc. And so all of this down drop area we still have yet to test. But all of this mineralization has not been included in that historic resource. So we have since been doing confirmation drilling in here and stepping out, and we believe that we've already been close to doubling the size of the historic resource with a path to tripling it, and I'll show you that in a cross section here of the down dip extension. This is just to zoom out again and show you perspective of the whole project. I'm going to talk about the Jackson Fault here in a slide to come. This is a 3D view of the FAD mineralization and really just shows you, again, that circled area being where the existing resource is, and that we're now developing this whole southeast lobe, and you can see how we are on the path to doubling the size of this. This is the down dip extension, and it's important to note that, this is all the drilling that was done by Hecla, and you can see sort of these different horizons of mineralization. Some of these zones that hit 13-14% lead zinc, and this is just all area that we have yet to test. We have over about a kilometer of down dip extension to test. These are some of the drill results that we've had. We've only done two holes in the near surface oxide target. Right here, PC2202, and you can see within 110 meters of surface, 4.5 grams gold equivalent over 28 meters, and 24 meters of about 5.3 grams gold equivalent. And that's all within the first 110 meters. The rest is all from the FAD main zone, which is, again, sits around that 2,400 foot level. And you can see the high grade nature of these holes and the actual very good widths of it. And so we'll continue to step out and drill the southeast lobe. And eventually we will test that down dip extension. When I noted the Jackson Fault earlier, and why that's exciting for us is that, and it's actually really what led me to want to get this project. This image that you see on the left is a map that was published by 2 PhDs at the University of Arizona, co-authored by the senior geologist at Barrick. And the idea of the paper was, it was published in the 90s, and the idea of it was that there was still a lot of untested and underexplored structure in Nevada, specifically the Jackson Fault. So this is the Jackson Fault here. This fault structure being solid, it's what's known about, what's tested, and the dotted line here being what's underexplored, and largely because it was undercover. So as I said, this hasn't been drilled in 50, 60 years. This paper was published in the 90s, and so this area has still yet to be drilled. We have not drilled it yet, and the reason being is we were focusing on the FAD main zone over here, but I-80 is located just next to us, as I said earlier. Here's the Archimedes pit. The edge of their pit, right up into our borders, about 1.5 kilometers, they just made a big discovery, which they're calling a bonanza CRD. It's important to note that these carbonate replacement deposits are normally base metals. Because we are located very close to this Carlin gold deposit here, we're getting additional gold mineralization as a secondary event, which we believe is associated with this Carlin deposit. They've made this big discovery on the Jackson Fault, and it's about 1.5 kilometers, as I said, to our border, and then we have about almost 3 kilometers of the structure to test. So we'll allocate some of the drilling in our upcoming program to that new structure as we advance the FAD main zone. Obviously, given the district sort of scale play here, we believe that at some point there's logic to consolidate the camp. And so given a lot of synergies with the fault structures and the mineralogy, and obviously that, given that I-80 has recently announced the scoping study to convert their operations to a base metal, that will all, I think, eventually play in, the camp at some point potentially being consolidated. And during that, we'll obviously be doing a lot of watching and learning learning why I-80 they just aggressively announced a program of 7 drills next door, and so we work very well together in that. They house our geologists in the existing Waterton camp, and they are a shareholder of about just under 7%. Everyone, thank you for being here and for listening. You can just catch me over there if you have any questions.